Okay, so September 23rd. Do I see everybody over here? Yeah, now I like to see everybody. And so today is a very special day, really, because it is the very first day of autumn here, at least in the north, in the half of the globe is autumn. And let me do this. And as the very first day of this season, I saw this very nice quote from Albert Camus. It says, autumn is a second spring when every leaf is a flower. And indeed, it is pretty. It has its beauty. But also, thinking about the season, I found this other quote from Margaret Elizabeth Sangster, and it says, spring is beautiful and summer is perfect for vacations. But autumn brings a longing to get away from the unreal things of life, out into the forest at night with a campfire and rustling leaves. So it's very nice, and to me, it brings also a thought about the wisdom that actually is hidden in this season. If we pay attention, as nature gets ready to what is coming up, really the winter time. So it is very wise to, in that preparation, to get rid of things that they will not need anymore. So, and thinking about that, I'd like us to just take this moment, the brief moment, close our eyes, elevate our thoughts, invite our mentors, the spiritual guides of this group, our mentors, the mentors of each one of us, the mentors of this group, and ask them to come beside us, lead us on our study today, on the days ahead of us, and through those times when our mind, our body, our spirit cannot cope. So let's ask for their protection. Let's ask for their wisdom to come beside us and stay with us, bringing us strength, wisdom, so we can overcome those challenges. May this wisdom from nature help us to understand when to get away, or the feelings, the thoughts that don't do us any good anymore. Like the trees lose the leaves they don't need anymore. So may all of us understand and practice the same. May all of us also get rid of the pain, the sadness, the sorrow, the guilty, emptying our hearts and creating room for new energy, new and positive thoughts, positive and constructive feelings. And may all of us create room for this positive, luminous, and loving teachings from the higher beings, from the higher spirits. And may we also not only make room for those teachings, but also receive them with gratitude, understand, hold them close to our heart, and finally practice them. Bring them to practice in our lives and the lives of the other ones around us. And so be it. So, all right. So, just a quick reminder, in October, in a week from now, I do not know exactly when, but this is just a reminder to the folks helping me putting this together. We are going to be discussing about the missionary of the lights, and that's the next book from Chico and the Spirit André Luiz. That's a Spiritual Realm series from André Luiz. And as a reminder, if you didn't upload your photos for the photo contest, it is still time to do it. I send you the link. So just put in there. I saw Luis had some, Glenn. So if anybody else will have some pictures, just put in there, and then we'll pick a day to choose which one is the best. So last week we were talking about the work and, what kind of work we do and how we understand we have something to do and what is our calling, etc., etc. So Gloria, she sent me this email, and I thought it was very, very nice what she shared with me. So I thought about bringing this to the group today. So she was, I think she was listening to this podcast, Sounds True, from Tammy Simon. And then Tammy was saying that she said, recently I received, this is Tammy, I received a newsletter from Sister Joan Chittister, and this is the sister, an 86-year-old prolific and active Benedictine nun and theologian, whom I deeply respect. The topic was a spirituality of work. This is Sister Joan. Sister Joan writes the most telling indicator of the spiritual deterioration of the Western world may be its distortion of the purpose of work. In this culture, we work so we can do something other than work as soon as possible. We work for personal profit, not for the good of the human race. Sister Joan continues, says Tammy. A spirituality of work is a process by which you finally come to know that your work is God's work, unfinished by God because God meant it to be finished by you. So Tammy says, what if we saw our work as holy, as an expression of what we care about, an opportunity to create, to solve collective problems, and to give to others? I believe that is possible for each of us, and then our work doesn't become a means to some future end, but a type of ongoing, dare I say, ministry. So it's very profound and it's very pretty. And to me, I see it resonates to my heart because I see a lot of wisdom in those words. And I see also something that is very important to us. And that is what we have been talking about for many meetings, is about the criteria. So I see a very clear and nice criteria here in regards to what kind of work is constructive, is relative, is important, and also it is something that it has nothing to do with us, but to others. You know, how our lives, how our work can impact on others, and what we are doing that can actually make each other's or somebody else's life better, or, you know, at least a little bit more comfortable. So thank you, Gloria, for sharing this with us. If you have anything to say, to add, just chime in.
I just thought it was very beautiful, and I reflected on it this week. And I think the work that I've done since I retired reflects this even more than the work I did before I retired, because it's part of a team effort to make life better for others. So yeah, it touched my heart when I read this. Yes,
it does touch my heart as well, because, you know, a few meetings ago we talked about today people get so busy, and it's so easy to get distracted because, oh, I have this work to do in my office, I have to take care of the family, I have to take care of the house, blah 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 blah, and then we get distracted. But in reality, we don't do the real work that we were supposed to be doing here, you know, to make this world a little better for all of us. Haisi, please.
Yeah, I wonder about this really, because you have to do these things in life. I mean, you have a profession, and that's what you have to do to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Now, this other thing that you do is something else. I mean, as Gloria has found, now she has retired, she can do these other things that will help people do things, because she's not earning money to live. This is what I mean. I think I mean, Sister Joan is in a convent, so that her work is going to be always spiritual and working for other people, because she's not earning. She's not earning a living. This is what I mean. Yeah.
It was her calling, so it is not our calling to be nun or a priest, or
that's
so
right.
as such. We need to work, we need to earn, right, so we can pay the bill. But like Jesus one day said, you know, my kingdom is not in this world. So yeah, we still need to make a living in this world, but never forget about we are just temporary here. This is not our real life. So we need to remember about what we are actually doing here. We are here to learn, to exercise, to practice, but also, if it's not our calling to be working as a nun and a priest or for others, as a minimum, we should be looking inside of each one of us, inside of our heart, and work on it, you know, make it a little, try to be a little bit wiser, I'll say.
Yes, I mean, that I can agree with.
Yeah.
I can agree with you. Looking at your heart and the kind of life you're living, and how you're interacting with people. And you can help people sort of at work even. So you know, it's a situation.
You know, something that it works very well for me. Every time that in the Spirit Center, every time they ask me to talk about a certain topic, before I do so, I look inside, and then I said, okay, so do I have the moral authority to talk about this? It's not about the knowledge. I ask, do I have the authority to do that, to talk about this to others? And if I see something that I need to work on it inside of me within my relations, family wise or friend wise, and people surround me, then I do that work before I talk to the folks in the spiritual center. So it's a very nice exercise, and it does work for me very well. Luis, please.
Yes, it reminded me of that passage in the gospel where I'm going to read just fast here for you. When Jesus Christ was on his way to a certain town, and a woman named Martha took Jesus into her house. And she said, and she had a sister by name Mary, and she took her seat Mary took a seat at the Lord's feet and gave attention to his words. Martha, the sister, had her hands full of the work of the house, and she came to him and said, Lord, Jesus, is it nothing to you that my sister has me let do all the work? Say to her that she is to give me some help. And Jesus turned to her and said, Martha, Martha, you're full of care and trouble about such a number of things. Little is needed, or even one thing only, for Mary has taken that good part, which will not be taken away from her.
Mary has chosen the path which will never be taken. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, of course, Martha has was doing a very important work, because she was making food for Jesus Christ and his apostles. A very practical work, very good. But look, let's talk in terms of spiritism or spiritualism. She was talking to the owner of the planet. The owner of the planet was in her house, and you're worried about the French fries, right? So it's a little not proportional. Yes, the guy of the planet was in her house, and oh my God, there's no milk for everyone here. What can I do?
Yeah, there is another way to see this. While one was concerned about the food for the spirit, the other one was concerned about the food for the body.
Yes, Martha was not wrong, but this is
No.
the sense of proportion that we lose. We distract, as Anna said, right? We get distracted by things around the planet, by things to do. The Spirit says something very important. We are artists in fabricating, in manufacturing false obligations.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to the Spirit side, when we thought, oh, I accomplished all my duties. No. Many of your duties were not duties at all. If you had focused on what really mattered. It's tough, isn't it? There we go.
Thank you, Luis. Gloria. Oh, Lynn? Okay.
That's a very powerful lesson. Work can actually save you too. Not only you're giving so much to others, but here I am, it's over 5 years ago, I'm deep in grief, and it's the 1-year anniversary of Felicia transitioning home. And I definitely got the message from the other side, you have to start writing books. Now, I didn't feel like writing books. I mean, it was like get a stick in my eye. I didn't feel like writing a book. So, but it helped me in not only the productivity to feel that you are contributing, but it also, I think, can help when you do work like this. Now, the work I've been doing with Felicia and the others on the other side, the last 4 or 5 years is, in my mind, orders of magnitude more important than what I did all my life in medicine and science, which was important at that point. But remember, I was the ultimate skeptic. I really didn't give the afterlife much thought until the big trigger when Felicia returned home. So I think you have a lot of advantages here. It gets your mind occupied. You don't have to think about all the grief and the pain and the suffering, but also you start to contribute now and giving more now. Mm-hmm. Now, Felicia and I, like this week, we're helping people connect with loved ones on the other side. And Luis and Olivia have done this. So it's a sense of giving, and you're the one that receives the most. So I think I think a lot of people in the afterlife don't realize the value, all the attributes of work, especially in this field.
Yep.
It really, in many respects, it saved me writing all these books and, keeping, and getting all the, it really, and it's a great sense of productivity, and it really helps with grief. All these afterlife conferences, whether they're talking about grief and suffering and this, but it really does help with the grief aspect and keeping your mind occupied. You're producing, you're contributing, and you're helping. Yeah, it's so important. I think that's a very, very, what Sister Jones said is really a very pragmatic aspect of this. And as Louise said about worrying about all these extraneous nonsense things that always come up, like me and the fruit flies. But but what I'm saying is, that's a very powerful lesson. Thank you, Gloria. Very powerful lesson that we all should work.
Yeah, work. Yeah. Sometimes it's so hard to tell somebody living a difficult moment, say, okay, so just do you want this to pass faster or to get better? Just forget about your pain and let's do some work for others. And sometimes it's hard to say, but that's the best way. Louise, I have a question for you. Yesterday I was watching the...
By the way, before that, Gloria wants to speak.
No, she, yeah.
Huh?
I can wait. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Oh, I thought you were...
No, Len was first in line. That's what I said. Len was first.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Gloria. Yeah, go ahead, please.
No, I want to hear your question. Go ahead.
Well, the question is, yesterday I was watching The Chosen, this series, The Chosen, and it was a very nice moment when Nicodemus, he decided not to follow Jesus. I did not know if I saw that, but anyway, so that's that history, and this is not something. So, and he decided to do that because he had so many other things in society. He had, his family, he has the Sanhedrin, he had all this work for him, and as an important person, it was inconceivable somebody like him following a group of people like Jesus. So kind of reminds me what we were talking about, which work is most important or more important for us to do. And so Nicodemus was following, or he was attending to the calling of society at that time, and not exactly the calling of Jesus. How is Spiritism, what is the perspective from Spiritism in these regards, and do we know exactly who Nicodemus was?
You talk about Nicodemus, the disciple.
Yeah.
Who became...
Not the disciple, no.
No, he was not. No, you're talking about the Nicodemus as mentioned in the Bible with Jesus.
Yeah.
Because he went to Jesus by night to talk to him.
Yes, that's
and
the one
then,
that I'm
the one.
And then he was convinced.
He was convinced, but but in the series it says Jesus invited him to follow the group, and he decided not to.
I never heard that. So anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know exactly what one really wants from this comment, but we have lots of examples in our lives and in famous spirits' lives, because we usually have a fork in our lives. This fork will show you. But by the way, there's a book called, I like this book. It's a very American book. It's called The Ego is My Enemy. And he said he was talking about, I think, a colonel or someone like that. And the colonel was talking to his students, said, well, in life, you have a fork. You have to decide to be or to do. If you decide to be, you go with society, you go to make an image of yourself, you want to be important. If you want to do, maybe not that much, but you do. And I think that's it. Well, Jesus Christ wants, in that book 2000 years ago, with channeled by Chico Xavier, right? Emmanuel, the then senator, Roman senator 2000 years ago, was face to face with Jesus Christ, looking for some healing to his daughter, when Jesus Christ said to him, you can, right, grab this opportunity now or some thousands of years later. But he chose Rome. And when he chose Rome, he put aside his way and his further reincarnations, all the light. In every reincarnation, and Chico Xavier speaks about all the reincarnations, so many of the reincarnations Emmanuel had after that moment. He was so involved with the power, with Rome, with the church, the institution, right? He could even understand the nature of the gospel, but he couldn't get into its simple practice because he had attached himself to all the dark forces of the world that Rome represented.
Okay,
So
you're talking about Jairus.
Emmanuel, the Chico Xavier's guide, who 2000 years ago,
Oh,
had
is she
been
okay?
a senator,
Okay.
called Publius Lentulus, right?
Okay.
This
So
book is
it's a
wonderful,
different
people.
person. Okay, it's
Yeah.
another person. Yes. Okay.
Yes. And there's a sentence in I think it's question 1019, the last question of the Spirit's book. I don't remember the question, but I don't remember the answer by the Spirit to St. Louis, I guess. And the answer is, he says something like, poor of those who put aside the light in their lives, who back away from the light, because they plant to themselves centuries of frustration and wrongdoings because they are not aware, right? It's a karmic thing. Every time we refuse the light, we buy the darkness, right, to our lives. And this is,
that's very nice. I do not know if anybody else read the book 2000 years ago from Chico Xavier. It's a very nice book, by the way. It is in English. And there is, it talks about Emmanuel's life as a senator, Roman senator. And in that life, he met with Jesus. And the circumstances were such that Emmanuel's daughter, his only daughter, got sick. And it was very bad. She was about to die when, as the last resources, Emmanuel finally agreed with his wife. She was asking him to talk to Jesus, to take their daughter to Jesus. And finally, Emmanuel agreed with that request. And then he decided to meet Jesus. He asked Jesus for a meeting, but then he does that at night. And when they meet, Jesus and Emmanuel, what Jesus said to Emmanuel was, it was better if you come over here during the daylight. Because as senator, he was very proud. He didn't want to be seen, Emmanuel didn't want to be seen looking for someone like Jesus. So Jesus said it was better if you come over here during the daylight. And then Jesus said, but regardless, he was about to attend the request to look after their daughter, not because of Emmanuel, but because of his wife. His wife was a person of faith. And the funny thing is, Emmanuel, after that night, he was never, I think he regretted for centuries and centuries and centuries, because after then he was working for many lives, in with spirituality, and finally with Chico, he was unstoppable, working and working, and it is like he has been driven by this regret, if you will, because he didn't recognize the truth when the truth was right in front of him. So it is very interesting.
Yeah, that's the book before Leda speaks. That's the book we here in Brazil and people in the United States did the research about. Remember, that was about 90 historic points that matched in terms of, and Chico couldn't ever get in touch with that kind of knowledge in 1947. Not even the public library had existed in his town. Okay, Leda.
Gloria, did you give up?
No, I didn't give up.
So go first, please.
Thanks. I was a long time ago, I was going to respond to something that Hyacinth said. After I retired and I had been able to language what I saw as my life's purpose, and it has changed as I have changed. And I reflect on what I did during my career. I was living my purpose, and my purpose, now I can language it as service and education. And so 40 years in higher education, I was living my purpose, even if I wasn't able to language that at the time. And just today in my walking meditation, I was reflecting on the people who are doing landscaping work. And I was so in awe of them. They create beauty in Jesus's planet. And they are being of service to us. They give us joy with the work they do. A teacher. I can't think of an occupation that isn't fulfilling a holy ministry, because we're contributing to the whole. You think, oh, well, what about IT guys? Well, even IT guys enable us to, everybody makes a contribution to the whole. And the exception that and by the way, the landscapers, I'm in awe of them. They can speak multiple languages, like all of you who can. I just feel so terrible that wasn't an option for me growing up. And I was so embarrassed when I went to Europe and people could speak 3, 4, 5 languages, and they'd offer me all of them. And then I have to go, no, English. Ugh. They would go French, and I go, no. Spanish, no. German, no. They'd offer me all these, and I'd have to and then finally they go, English, and I go, yeah. I tried to pretend I was Canadian. I was so ashamed. Anyway, the exception to, and I'm reading what Maria wrote, and this is making the case even better. We all make a contribution. And I want to see if I can find this for you, because it was a message that was up at a Methodist church. Oh, and I hope I can find it. Yes, here it is. You know how churches will have these signs out in front with, they change the messages? This is from Grace Methodist Church, and I'm not sure where that sign says, 8 men have as much wealth as 3.6 billion people, but sure, the single mom on food stamps is the problem in the world today. And it's sarcastic as all get out. And it should be, because the poor are not a problem. It's the obscene wealth. It's the people. Yes, there are people who provide jobs for others, and that is a service. Absolutely. But when it gets to certain level where somebody's earning 400 times more than their workers. And there have been examples that made news where an employer would do research and find out, and he could afford it, that all of his workers would be able to lift themselves up if they made a certain amount per year. And he made sure all of them were making at least that much, even the janitorial staff and the secretarial staff. And we look at that in awe, and yet he didn't lose any money doing that. He would, that's how, if I ruled the world, that's how it would, that's how it would work. It wouldn't be that, 8 men have as much wealth as 4 billion other people. It's obscene. And it's not, it's the antithesis of what Maria is writing about here. And that is the thing I reject. That is the thing that I find as an abomination. It just makes me so, it saddens me. It really does. And I think that every one of us here, and everyone we probably know, if we really reflect on it, our work has been, even if we made hot dogs, our work has been of service to others. It has been a ministry. If you really look back on your life and what you've done your whole life, it has been a ministry, or God wouldn't have had us doing it. Spirit,
absolutely,
very wise.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one occupation that I deeply respect and I'm greatly grateful is, for example, the guy collecting the trash in our houses. Can you imagine the world without them being there? Oh my goodness, when I see them passing by, I just, please, thank you so much. God bless you, because it is something so, so important, right? Leda,
I actually said that to a garbage man in Sweden as he came to collect it, and I said, "Thank God you are there doing this job, because without them, just think of the rubbish and the disease and all of this."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. Leda, please.
So I've always thought about this book that you mentioned, Anna, the 2000 years ago, because at first I thought, oh my goodness, how can a Roman senator leave everything behind and go follow Jesus? That seemed like such a hard work, and I felt like no one could do that. But now I understand that we have been given so many opportunities of having spiritual knowledge, and I understand that this spiritual knowledge is like seeds that are planted in our souls, and they will blossom at the right time. There will be a right time for them to blossom. But if we lose so many opportunities, then this time might have a lot of pain with it. So these opportunities that we miss sometimes are opportunities for us to be less painful, to avoid a lot of pain in our lives. So I remember, as you were saying about Nicodemus, right? There was another very powerful Jewish man who was called Gamaliel, and I don't know in English, Gamaliel, I don't know. Gamaliel. He was in contact with Jesus, and his story is described in a book called Paul and Stephen by Chico Xavier. And he was a very bright man, and he understood that Jesus had the right thoughts, and he was the chosen one. But he just thought, I'm too old for that. I have my family. It's not the right time for me. And in the end, he got sick, and his family didn't care for him, and he ended up being in a lot of pain. And he was helped by the Christians after Jesus had died. And the disciples, they had him in this Casa do Caminho, né? The small church that they were starting. And that's when Paul decided that he would follow Jesus. And he was at the same place when after the 3 years that he passed in the desert meditating, and they met there in the church, in the beginning of the Christian church, in the beginning of the, it's not really a church, right? In the beginning of the efforts of the disciples. So then Gamaliel told Paul that he had this in his heart, he had this wish to follow Jesus, but he couldn't anymore because his time was gone. And that was very painful to him, to be in this situation. Do you remember that, Luis? Am I telling the story right?
Yes, that's the point what you're talking about. The same point that some spiritists find it a little bit unfair that Emmanuel, when was a senator, had been treated so, straightforward by Jesus, saying, it's now or never. It's now or 2,000 years from now. But the problem is, Emmanuel had already been a deported spirit. 7,000 years before, he had come to this earth, and he was trying to repent, trying to make things better in his life. And after 7,000 years here around that, here on earth, Jesus, who brought him to this place for him to, redeem himself, said, okay, now after the 7,000 years, are you coming with me or not? He said, no. So it's a different thing between one spirit and the other. That's why Jesus Christ all the time said, look, you can come with me. Would you like to come? For others, go and sin no more. That's enough for you. That's what you can do, right? Because he's the master and he can see through you. So just like talking to Chico Xavier, when I first talked to Chico Xavier, I was 15 years old and I could understand what he told me or talked to me about 30 years later, right? The guy is seeing through you. Say, well, what is this? What nonsense is he talking about? And then, now I remember. That's it, right? These people.
Yes,
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
remember.
And now I understand that that better, and I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that if we lose the opportunity, then we will probably find a lot of pain because we didn't value it before.
Not a lot of pain in this life, man, maybe more difficult in the other lives, because we won't be with the same people, with the same context. We won't be with the people that would help us to go faster, maybe. And I remember the story you were saying, and Paul was talking to Gamaliel. He wasn't yet with Jesus. He didn't accept Jesus at the time.
Gamaliel.
Paul.
Oh.
And he was talking to Gamaliel, and Gamaliel told him, oh, Jesus came for the suffering and for who are in pain and the simple ones, and you are not suffering. That's why you don't recognize him yet. And he was in deep sorry, suffering a lot, and later. But Gamaliel told him before, you still can learn about it with me and with the others.
That's it. Okay.
thank you. Thank you, guys. Len, please.
A few comments about the discussion on wealth and work. First of all, there is honor in all types of work. I think people forget there's honor in all types of work. Second thing about wealth. This group understands that real wealth comes from the heart. That's the real wealth. the love, the forgiveness, the compassion, gratitude. That's the real wealth. It comes from the heart. I mean, quoting one of my favorite people, we all know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the founder of the hospice system worldwide, always said, all your mansions, all your gold, all your money, all your Rolls Royce go to zero when you return home. We all become equal. You go to zero and return home. So that's just a few comments I want to say about. I get this discussion all the time with my sons. You know, I says, what? Well, how much is enough? I ask, how much is enough? You know, I says, the real wealth is in here, in the heart. We're together, family, love, forgiveness, gratitude. That's the real wealth from the heart. But you know, what happens is many souls get trapped. They become the gray entities, as we've discussed, where they become more trapped by the greed, the money, the vices, etc. That's an issue. That's a big problem.
Yeah. Very well said. Yep. Thank you, Lynn. Hyacinth.
Yes, two things. One is this Gamaliel story. Was it Chico Xavier wrote about that?
It is in the book Paul and Stevens.
Okay.
Paul and Stevens.
Because what is written in the Bible about Gamaliel is that Paul, as a youngster, studied with Gamaliel, because Gamaliel was a master teacher. So that it doesn't mention that he had any connection with Jesus. Okay. The other one is that, yes, we know that the wealth is in the heart, and all this is very temporary. I mean, you die, you can't take it with you, and it's gone, and you don't use it. But this is what the world is. And I remembered when Jeff Bezos was the wealthiest man in the world, and he was not paying his workers the minimum wage. They had to be unionized before they got minimum wage. And he was the richest man in the world. So, you know, it's a distortion. But this is something to do with the world and what the reality is, because for those who understand that this is a blip on the screen, this life, it's a blip on the screen. So it's you need to get to that stage where you understand that, I think.
Yeah. Very well said. Thank you, guys. Good comments. And
I think Gileni also wrote something. Let me see here. Again, said, I believe we still choose the world today. We are learning to make better choices for the future. Yes.
yeah,
Indeed. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so back to what we had. And last time we talked about the book, the Spiritist book. So we were discussing law of liberty, and we are almost like at the end of this one. Foreknowledge of the future. Why is the future hidden from human beings? And the answer, if they knew the future, they would ignore the present and would not act with the same freedom. They would be swayed by the thought that if a specific event is to happen, there is no need to worry about it, or they would seek to prevent it. God didn't want it to be this way, so that all people would contribute in the accomplishment of God's design. Oh my goodness, this is exactly what where is it? Even those designs they would want to prevent. Therefore, you often prepare the way for the events that occur over the course of your lifetime without even being aware of it. So with that, let's go ahead and move to the next one, that is A70. Since there is a practical reason why the future is hidden, why does God sometimes permit it to be revealed? So some of us, sometimes we have intuition, or there are some folks like Chico. He used to know when something was about to happen with some folks. So what do we think? So why does God sometimes permit the future to be revealed to some of us? What do we think?
For me as a human, it's to keep me motivated, to keep me on the path, to give me hope.
Yeah, I like what you said, because to me it's also like, if that happens to me, it means that I'm connected, right? Nothing, you will not receive anything, you will not perceive anything if you're not connected. But if you are, it's like reinforcement. You are in the right way. I like Gloria. Thank you. Lynn, please. Oh, you are on mute, Lynn.
It's related to tasks, because the spirit world, the universe on the other side, they have their own timetable. We are on their timetable. Things are revealed when they feel appropriate. It should be revealed. I mean, like people ask me all the time. I say, I have no control, zero. I'm on a roller coaster. I'm waving hi, and I'm going along for the ride. It's related to, so I had the Great Awakening 5-6 years ago, and Felicia was the great big trigger. But it's all related. What talents you are given, or gifts, I should say, from the other side, is related to tasks. That's why they reveal things to you. This is your work. This is your tasks. Okay. And many times the gifts that are given to you are aligned with those tasks. Everyone, mediums, there's all kinds of artists, they all have various tasks, but they're related to their gifts they were given. Like my gifts given, it's related to tasks that the universe wants to reveal to you on their timetable.
Yeah, if it is important for you to know, if you can understand, right? Thank you, Lynn. Maria, please.
Many times we think a lot about the future, and we have to know. We want to know what will going on with us in the future, but we have a lot of difficulty being in the present. Most of the time, our thoughts are linked to memories of the past, afraid that the bad things will happen again, or afraid that good things will not last in the future days. We hardly enjoy the present. We are caring about the future, but not about the present. For example, when we are having lunch or take ice cream or anything, we eat mechanically, and our mind goes to other areas instead of paying attention to the taste or texture of the food. This is how we do with many activities. Being absent, that's right?
Yes.
Being absent from the here and now.
Yeah.
Which that we lose the only reality in which we can change something in our lives. Yep. The present is the moment to change something in our lives. There is a phrase of Chico Xavier in which he teaches that although no one can go back and make a new beginning, anyone can start now and do make a new ending.
Yeah.
And the future, our future, our future is in our hands, or our future are in our hands.
Our future, your future is in your hands. So
Yes, Tanya, thank you.
yeah, very well said, Maria. Yeah, that's like we were saying, we have this tendency of getting distracted with what we are doing right now, and most of the time we are doing things mechanically, not really realizing that our future is whatever we are doing, is a consequence of whatever we are doing today and right now. Yeah, thank you. Luis, Livia.
In the book In the Greater World by André Luiz through Chico Xavier, the book studies the mind from the spiritual point of view, right? And they say something very interesting. They say that for us to be balanced, spiritually balanced, we need to think about the past, think about the future, and act in the present. If we get stuck in one of these three parts, we can even be badly influenced by other kinds of spirits. If we are in the past alone, we're going to miss the opportunity of doing something really new, right? And better. If we get stuck in the future, in the perspectives of the future, or in praying only, and we don't act in the present, the same problem. And if we got stuck in the present, only in the present, we will repeat many mistakes all the time, and pain will come to put on the tracks again, right? So the perfect balance is to live meditating about the past, planning a new future, and acting in the present to make that future happen. So this is the law of evolution. So once you made a house and forgot you didn't make a roof, so it rained, and if you make a roof again, you lose everything that is inside the house. If you make a house again without a roof, you're not meditating in the past. So, okay, I've already made a house without a roof and I lost everything. So now I'm going to project in the future a new house with a roof. And then, but I have to make it happen, right? So that's the balance of the spirit. Every time we get stuck in one of these phases, past, present, and future, we can get really become circling or going in circles, and in a mono-idealistic way of being, and be badly influenced by spirits in that same tuning.
Yeah, that's very nice. Thank you. Okay, so you were the last one. Would you please read the answer for us?
Okay. So, because in such cases, this foreknowledge facilitates the accomplishment of what is to be, rather than hinder it, but making the persons to whom it is revealed act in a different manner than they would otherwise act. In addition, it is often a trial. The prospect of an event may awaken more or less honorable thoughts. For example, if individuals learn that they will receive an inheritance that they had not expected, they may be tempted by greed, by elation at the prospect of increasing their worldly pleasures, or by a desire for the death of their benefactor, so that they may obtain it sooner. On the other hand, this prospect may awaken good and generous thoughts in them. If the prediction is not fulfilled, it is a test of how they bear disappointment. They acquire the merit of reproach of the good or bad thoughts they have by their expectation of the event anticipated. Interesting.
Very nice, isn't it? Yeah. Say it, Gloria.
This is exactly what happened in the Paul and Stephen book too, and I can't pronounce the man's name. How did you say it? Started with a G?
Gamaliel?
Gamaliel.
Yes, this is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
When Paul went and
You're
said,
right.
"What are you doing in here?" His children wanted his money and his properties, and so they threw him out.
Yes, exactly.
This is exactly what happened.
That was related indeed. Good.
Yeah, it's so interesting. That's nice. This actually reminded me something that happened to me many years ago. I was something was about to happen. I was studying for something, and I just graduated. I was applying for a scholarship, and it was a very very hard one. Many people trying to get that scholarship, but still I was trying. I was studying because there was a test, and at some point I was exhausted. Physically, emotionally, and then I remember this night when it was late at night, and then I prayed. I said, hey, I'm exhausted. All the efforts I did put to graduate, I was not fooling around. I was studying. I was doing my job. I was very serious about it. And here I am still I continue to study. So still doing it. So I need to know, I need something to reassure me, if this is going to be fruitful or not, because I'm exhausted. I'm about to give up. And the day before, I went to my aunt's house and she gave me a rose. It's funny because so many things, so many signs happened to me associated with roses. So she gave me a rose, and it was fresh one. And as soon as I said that, I noticed that rose, the petals, some of them, they fell down. So, and I look at the on the ground, and then I saw it. And I said, well, that's funny, the way that the petals, they fell on the floor, because they didn't fell like overlapping, it was organized. And what I saw was the map of Europe. And then I said, okay, so it looks like the map of Europe, except that the Italy part is missing. And then the last petal fell down exactly where the position of Italy. And then I said, okay, that's the sign, because I was applying for a scholarship that's going to happen, a course that is going to happen in Italy. And I said, that's the sign. Okay, so I continue. I did the test. I didn't pass. But you know what? I said, something is wrong, because I had the sign that I'm getting this scholarship. I had the sign. I know I'm getting the scholarship. So what happened was, there was another course, post-graduation course, and that was even harder to get, because it was not for the entire country like the one that I was studying for. It was for the entire Latin America. And out of 2 students, I was one of them to get that scholarship. So it is like, when they want, guys, there's nothing that can go against you. Gloria, please.
Congratulations on getting the scholarship. That's awesome. Back to that story, I just, it's so amazing, because if he hadn't gone through that horrible ordeal, this man in the Paul and Stephen book, and in the Bible, if he hadn't gone through that horrible ordeal and been betrayed by his own children for their greed, he wouldn't have been in that chapel, and he wouldn't have converted. This story wouldn't have converted Paul. So it was all in divine order.
Yeah, I looked it up, Gloria, and I got it a little wrong because there was a long time that I read it. But actually, Gamaliel, he understood that Jesus was the chosen one, and but he didn't have the courage to tell his family and tell the world about it. And he did try to help the first Christian that was killed by Paul, which is Stephen, right? And he tried to warn Paul back then, and but he didn't succeed. But as a compliment to him, Peter invited him to the church, and there's where he found a friend. That his friend is the one that have been abandoned by his family. He was a
Okay.
very wealthy man, a very rich man, and then Gamaliel was touched in his heart because he saw that his family had abandoned him because he had this disease, right? And he was very touched in his heart, and that made him go deeper and deeper in his meditations about Jesus. And there's where he found the teachings of Jesus. Peter gave him some of the teachings of Jesus to read. And then afterwards, after Paul had gone to Damascus, and after he saw Jesus there and gone blind and everything, then he got back to Gamaliel and thought how confused he was, how he couldn't understand what should he do. And then Gamaliel helped him become the Jesus disciple, because he had already meditated in all his teachings, and he had been considered a little crazy by his family as well, because he was going in a different direction. And that's exactly what you're saying, that he if he didn't find his friend in such a condition there in the church, he wouldn't be able to help Paul in his future work. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. All right. So, am I sharing? Okay. So, am I sharing? Yes. Okay. So, 871. God knows everything, including whether people will succeed or fail in a given trial. What is the purpose of this trial, since it shows God nothing that is not already known about those individuals? Any comment? So the answer is, you might as well ask why God did not create humans perfect, or why human beings have to experience childhood before arriving at adulthood. The purpose of trial is not to enlighten God regarding to the merit of humankind. God knows exactly what they are worth, but to make human beings fully accountable for their behavior, since they have free will. People are free to choose between good and bad, and trials serve to tempt them or prove their resistance, leaving them all the merit for resisting it, even though God knows well in advance whether they will succeed or not. Out of divine justice cannot reward or punish them other than according to the actions they have committed. Yeah, it's something. Maria, you have something to say?
Yes, in the question 166, Kardec asked, how can the soul which did not reach perfection during corporeal life, finish purifying itself? And the answer was suffering the test of a new experience. And the second question is, how does this new existence arise? Will it be thought your transformation as spirit? And the answer was, when purifying itself, the soul undoubtedly experiences a transformation, but for this it needs the proof of bodily life. The tests are several objectives: checking aspirations, consolidating and monitoring learning, planning recovery. In this mean, the sense we can say that karma, or the law of cause and effect, is a new opportunity to learn, to evaluating a performance that the spirit achieved at the end of a stage, at the end of a life or more. But it's very important to remember that we need to prove in a physical plane what all the things that I believe that we get. Here in the physical plane is the plane on we prove what we really obtain in our favor. How I can say it in English, as conquistas e valores que obtivemos.
Yeah, what we conquer and all the values that we actually get. Yeah. Thank you, Maria. So, oh, Len. So guys, 4:18 here in Houston. I guess we're on top of the hour. I will go ahead and adjourn for today, but I hope to see you next Saturday, and I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Same to you.
Guys,
Bye.
see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice week.
You too,
Right.
Maria. Bye.